Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Cameron Herold presentation. I would like to thank our sponsors for our business acceleration system. We're sponsored by the Rapides Foundation. They're our main funder, and Central Louisiana Economic Development Alliance. And we are going to kick off our 2021 season early. And we're going to bring y'all a series of great webinars through the year. So we started with Cameron Herold, who was one of our great presenters 4 or 5 years ago, and can't wait to have him back. And so Wayne Mullins, the host of this event, is going to kick us off.
Thanks so much, Gary. So as Gary mentioned, Cameron actually came and spoke for Gary's program back 4 or 5 years ago here in Central Louisiana. And for those who attended, it's still a conversation that comes up on a regular basis, some of what Cameron talked about. I was introduced to Cameron and his work back, I think maybe 2012, 2013. I may be off on that, Cameron can correct me, but through his book, Double Double. That book really became almost like a handbook, a blueprint, a guide for what we're doing here at Ugly Mug Marketing. Cameron has written 5 different books, I believe, if I'm not mistaken: Double Double, Vivid Vision, Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, Free PR, and Meetings Suck. And highly recommend all of those books. All of them, as you can tell from the titles, speak to and talk about various topics, all relating to how do we do better? How are we better at what we do day in and day out as business owners and as entrepreneurs? Cameron works with CEOs literally from around the world. He travels and speaks around the world. I think one of the titles someone gave him is the CEO Whisperer. And that's simply because he's whispering into the ear of leaders of many of the great companies that you and I hear about in the press, we hear about on television. Cameron is the coach to a lot of those CEOs. So without further ado, without me rambling on, Cameron, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us today.
Hey, Wayne, you're so welcome. I really appreciate it. Gary, thank you very much for bringing me back in as well. I actually had to check the date just because I was going, gosh, it couldn't have been that. It was 6.5 years ago now. It was April of 2014. So we're going to be up at 7 years this April that it was there. It's amazing how fast the decades in time go, but I think that actually ties in a little bit to even what we're talking about today. And I've always tried to build companies and to work with companies that are very intentional about their growth. And instead of kind of finishing off a year or finishing off a 3-year period and seeing how far we came, I usually do it backwards. I usually try to visualize where I'm going to be a few years out, and then I work it backwards, almost as if I was going to say that I need to be downtown at 8 o'clock to be at a dinner reservation. You have to backward schedule the rest of your day to make sure you're showered and changed and do the drive and park and get there on time, right? So I build businesses the same way. So I'm going to show some slides and walk through some content for everyone today that hopefully can really help set us up to ground us in our companies. Can you guys see my screen right now? Okay, so gonna get this to play. We're good with the screen?
Yep, looks good.
So the way that I visualize businesses is like a jigsaw puzzle. And I almost see every business that we're building and every single one of your businesses like a jigsaw puzzle. And each of the pieces of these jigsaw puzzles are critical to put in place and to put them in place in the right order. I don't know if any of you remember being a child when you were given a jigsaw puzzle, you started to figure out there's a system to doing it quickly. You find the corners first. And then after you find the corners, you get all the sides that have the flat edges, and you kind of do the frame or the outside of the jigsaw puzzle. And then you do some of the big shiny objects in the center, and then you fill in the blanks. Building a business is very similar to that. And the starting point is really understanding the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle. I actually just saw some jigsaw puzzles for Christmas the other day, and one of them is just red. Every single piece is red. And another one is clear. And I'm just like, I would go crazy trying to do this puzzle because there's no way to pull it all together. Well, in our businesses, it's very similar to that your employees, your banker, your customers, your suppliers, if they can't see the picture on the front of the box, how can they possibly figure out what to do to help make your business happen? So I want you to think about your vivid vision that we're going to talk about today as almost like the picture on the front of the jigsaw puzzle, and how much easier it is to build that jigsaw puzzle when you know you're going to start with the corners and when you know what the picture looks like. So that's where we're going to be starting. Now, I did not create this concept. I was taught this concept by an Olympic coach 22 years ago today. And I was in Vancouver, Canada. 120 entrepreneurs were invited, a very similar program to like BAS. 120 entrepreneurs were invited to go to this lunch. Only about 16 of us showed up. And for the 16 that showed up, it turned out to be one of the most foundational parts of our businesses. And I've been taking this system and adapting it and teaching it now for 22 years. This Olympic coach that we met with started off his talk by saying he wanted us to look into a crystal ball. And we all kind of looked at each other and went, oh, wow, we've just wasted our day. Like, what a flaky session this is going to be about looking into a crystal ball about our business. But we went with the idea, and he tried to talk to us about how athletes would use the process of visualization. He talked about high jumpers, who you would actually see them out on the track with their eyes closed, almost as if they were running up to the bar and going up over the bar in their mind. Or you would see gymnasts walking through the routine in their mind on the floor, or skiers. And athlete after athlete after athlete were using visualization so that when they were performing the event, they could almost perform as if completely on instinct. So we understood that concept from a business perspective, or sorry, from a sport perspective. We didn't really know how to bring it into the business world. And we found an analogy that's worked over the years. If you think about building a house or about doing a renovation on your home, let's say that you were renovating a kitchen, you at the end of the day are really the CEO of that project. You know, you're hiring a contractor or workers to build your dream home, or you're hiring a contractor to do your kitchen renovation. And you don't need to know, as the homeowner, how to do electrical or how to do plumbing or how to hang drywall or how to do painting. You just need to be able to describe what you want the finished product to look like and feel like, and how your family's going to use the home, so the contractor can create the blueprints or the plans to make your vision come true. And then they can hand the blueprints and the vision of the project to the employees, and the workers can build your dream home without ever speaking to you. So imagine the power for a second of how powerful this concept could be inside of your business if your employees were so clear on what they were building. They were so clear on what your company was going to look like, act like, and feel like 3 years from today, that they could actually figure out which projects to work on. They could help prioritize the work. They found more meaning in their work. And then they were excited about showing up and working in your business to help you build your vision, because they were all as clear of what they were building as you were. That's the power of this concept that we're going to get into a little bit this morning. Now, the idea of writing a vivid vision, you've got to get out of the box a little bit. You have to get out of your office and get away from the day-to-day act of running your business. So what I like doing is going somewhere where I'm around nature. And you guys live in an amazing area where you can get away from your home, you can get away from your office, you can take a notepad and a pen, and this is all you need to start writing your vivid vision. I do not want you to take your laptop or your iPhone or an iPad or any technology with you at all. And you definitely don't want to do it in your boardroom or in your office, because then you get stuck with distractions and you get trapped into the problem solving of how you're going to do it. Again, remember that when you're starting to craft your vivid vision, don't worry about how it's going to come true. The workers, your leadership team, your employees will figure out how to make your dream come true. Your job is to describe the finished state so that they can figure out the plans to make that come true. You're almost going to go as if you fly in a time machine. Let's say that you go somewhere where you're around nature, you hop into the DeLorean time machine with the doc, and you travel off 3 years into the future, and you get out and it's December 31st, 2023. So you've literally teleported yourself 3 years into the future. And I want you to walk around your company, whether it's virtual or in person. And I want you to describe the office environment. And maybe you put 3 or 4 bullet points down around the office environment. I want you to describe the energy you feel from your employees. I want you to describe operations, describe their sales team, describe your marketing, describe your branding, And you're going to put 3 or 4 bullet points around every area of your business. You'll describe IT and engineering or manufacturing. You're going to describe your relationship with your bank, your relationship with your suppliers, your relationship with your accountant. You'll write down what the media is writing about you and what your customers are saying about you, what your employees are writing on the reviews on Indeed and Glassdoor. And again, you're not going to worry about how it happens, but you're just going to let your mind drift and describe the future and describe the feelings and describing how your company looks, acts, and feels 3 years from today. Your job is to take that vision of what you see in 2023 and start to mind map it all together so that you can start organizing all of these thoughts into rough areas. And again, most of us are not writers. I've never been trained in writing. I'm a terrible writer. At best, I'm an average speaker, but I can get my thoughts onto paper and I can kind of organize them into areas. And that's all you need to do to start with, is just organizing all of your thoughts into rough different areas. And then you can start to pull your rough bullet points together when you go back to your office. You can actually start to organize them up into kind of sections. So just type them up in bullet points. Again, no one's going to be reading this draft, so you don't have to be worrying about it being spelled perfectly or being grammatically correct. Just get a bunch of sentences or a bunch of bullet points organized by area and pulled together. These are examples from a client that I used to coach in Geneva, where the CEO of the company in 2009 decided that 3 years later, 2012, he wanted to take his company from 106 million in revenue to 500 million in revenue. So he started organizing his thoughts, describing his company 3 years out in the future. And then he took his rough bullet points and organized them into paragraphs and wrote his first rough draft. This is as far as you have to get as the entrepreneur, is to craft your vivid vision in a way that it's at least presentable and readable enough that you could hand it to a couple of people to say, what do you think? Again, this is not your finished draft. It doesn't even have to be as good as you might hand into a grade 11, English teacher for a creative writing class, okay? It just has to be reasonably good that somebody can actually take your rough words and give you some feedback on it to see if you're missing any areas. Once you actually have your first draft written, then you can pass this off to an actual writer. You can pass this off to an actual copywriter who can take your rough work and really make it pop and really make it polish and really make it jump off the page. You're going to add some of your design elements to it. This is an example of a vivid vision from a company in Vancouver or in Ottawa, Canada that I coached years ago. And they make clothing for guys that like to watch hockey. So when you read their vivid vision, it reads as if it's a bunch of 30-year-olds, speaking, and it talks in their voice, and it has that level of engagement and excitement like the brand might have. This is from a marketing company in Portland, Oregon. And I think it actually could have probably been done better by Wayne's group, but the idea is to make your vivid vision look and feel like your brand, so that when someone reads it, they're starting to feel like your company is going to be feeling in that future. So you want it to feel like your website or feel like your brand's going to be feeling in the future as well. At the end of the day, your vivid vision should be 4 or 5 pages maximum, and you only want to lean out 3 years into the future. If you go too far out into the future, if you go out to 10 years out, it's too far for people to wrap their head around, right? It's too far for them to actually figure out how to make that come true. It's almost like taking a group of kids in grade school and saying to build a home. It's too big of a stretch for them to do. But if you're saying to build a fort, go out into the bush and build a fort, they can figure that one out, right? So you want to give the stretch to your vivid vision about 3 years. You also don't want to only make it 1 year out, because then it's too close to today. So again, the idea becomes a 4 or 5 page written document that then gets polished by a professional copywriter. Then you add some of your graphic design elements to it, and then you actually kind of build it in from there. You can also take your finished vivid vision and post it into areas of your physical environment, like your offices as well. These are great to be able to put up onto lobbies of your office, or boardrooms or lunchrooms. One thing that on this one that you can see where they have the date as January 1st, 2018, I really like putting the end date, and the end date would have been December 31st, 2017. It just feels like if you're rolling it out, that it's a little bit more stress that 1 year earlier, even though it's only a day earlier, provides a little bit more stress into making sure that we get this thing done. Also, something to think about when you're building, we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but when you're actually making your vivid vision come true, it's very similar to like building a home, that you have to put the foundation in first, and then you put in the walls, and then you put in the electrical and the plumbing, and then you put in the drywall. There's kind of an order of operations that you build a house. Well, there's a very similar order that you build your business. It's important to let your employees know that some of what you write in your vivid vision won't come true until 3 years from now. Some of it won't come true until 2 years from now. Some of it won't come true until fourth quarter and third quarter and second quarter, but it will start to unfold as you actually scale this out. I've got clients that take their vivid vision, and after they've rolled it out as a PDF, they also have a Word document version of it. And every quarter at their quarterly planning meeting, they read through the Word document version together as a team, and they highlight any sentences that have now come true in green. They highlight any sentences they're now working on in yellow, and then the remainder of it just stays in black. So they can start seeing this document become more and more green quarter by quarter by quarter, and it starts showing the employees how you're actually making progress on that vivid vision as well. The vivid vision should also act like a bit of a magnet, right? It should be something that can actually pull all of your employees towards you. So when you're sharing a copy of the vivid vision with potential employees, with customers, potential customers, suppliers, it should be like a magnet pulling people towards the brand, which is one of the reasons why you want to have the professional copywriter to polish it, and the design elements added by a graphic designer. Is this has to be a magnetizing force into your company. Now, a magnet attracts people or attracts things, but a magnet also repels, right? Remember when we were kids and you switch the poles of the magnet and it all of a sudden pushes away? Well, a magnet attracts and repels. Your vivid vision document has to repel some people as well, right? You are not writing a document to attract everybody. I don't think any of us as a company are trying to attract every single business or every single person to our brand, right? We're clearly about attracting a certain kind of clientele. I remember Wayne and I went for lunch at a little roadside place in Louisiana, in your city. I think it was Alexandria, and it was like, you know, picnic tables and like you walk up and you ordered the side of the food, and we got our po' boys, which I'd never had before. And I mean, they clearly were attracting you and I and other business people, but they weren't attracting somebody walking in a suit and a fancy dress, right? But man, the food was spectacular. And if they tried to attract everybody, we wouldn't have gone there, because we really wanted to have that real authentic, you know, roadside experience. Well, just like when Steve Jobs rolled out the iPhone, he didn't care that half the world or most of the world wanted a keyboard. He had a vision for something completely different. It attracted the early users like zealots. It pushed a bunch of people away. And then all of a sudden the zealots started laughing at the people that were pushed away. And anybody that's using a BlackBerry today is kind of like, really? Like, how have you know that they almost can't join Apple now? It's just been so long that they've been laughed at. That's what your vivid vision has to do as well. It has to attract and it has to repel. And make sure that you write it in such a way that potential employees are reading the document and saying, hell yeah, I really want to work there, or there's no way I would ever want to work there. You really don't want it to be a real kind of watered down and average document. You also don't want to get too many of the leadership team people's opinions on what the vivid vision should say. The vivid vision is the core role of the CEO of the organization. Just like the homeowner who's building the house, the homeowner is not going to go and ask all the workers what the house should look like. The homeowner is not going to ask the contractor, what kind of a home should I build? The homeowner knows this is the kind of home I want to build, and the contractor figures out how. The CEO has to articulate the vision, and the employees can figure out how. But if you get too many people trying to help you write your vivid vision document, it gets too watered down and it doesn't have that same magnetic polarizing pull into the organization. When you roll out a vivid vision internally inside of your company, you're going to get a ton of alignment inside the organization, because for the first time, you'll have your employees, your customers, your suppliers. You're going to hand copies of it to potential employees and potential customers, and everyone will be completely aligned with what you want to be building. so they can start making decisions in alignment with that as well. Now, I talked about that jigsaw puzzle approach to our business. Well, included in your Vivid Vision document, you need to think about your core purpose of your company. And the idea with core purpose was really popularized by Simon Sinek in his famous TED Talk, Start With Why. Simon was actually on our board of directors in 2005 and 2006, 3 years before he wrote his book, 3 years before he did his TED Talk. We had Simon working with us in marketing, helping us with some of our brand ideas for 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And his core idea of starting with why and understanding what your core purpose is has to be tight inside of all of our organizations. So as an example, my core purpose is to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. So when Wayne approached me and said, will I come back and speak to the BAS over Zoom? I said, hell yeah, because it's a bunch of entrepreneurs that are getting together. They all want to grow their organizations. We're going to talk about the Vivid Vision, which is helping them make their dreams happen. It was like, check, 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 right? I would do this for free, except my kids have to eat. So it's easy to say yes to things. And my whole company, by the way, everyone that works for me, my full-time employees and my contractors, all know that what we do is to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. Now, if Wayne had approached me and said, hey, there's a government that wants you to come in and speak, would you do it? I'd say no. Or, hey, we've got this, manufacturing company and it's a union shop, and nope. Like, I don't want to work for government. I don't want to work for big corporate. I really like entrepreneurial groups and entrepreneurial organizations. So that's my core purpose. It helps me to say yes to the right speaking events. It helps me to know who to say yes to for coaching. My coaching criteria is companies have to be young, fun, entrepreneurial, high viral, high growth, pre-public. Very completely aligned with my core purpose of helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. All of my 5 books are all tied to helping entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. I think when I came to Louisiana last time, 6.5 years ago, we gave everyone a copy of Double Double. So all of the work that I do is completely aligned. Even my COO Alliance, I started an organization similar to what BAS might be, but there's no entrepreneurs allowed to join. It's only second in commands allowed to join. And my feeling is if I grow the skills of the second in command, the VP of Ops, the president, the COO, if I grow the skills of the second in command, they'll grow the entrepreneur's company. And even my podcast, the Second in Command podcast, is completely aligned with my core purpose. So think about your business and your core purpose and make sure that it really is thoroughly thought through and clear throughout your Vivid Vision. It has to be felt throughout the entire Vivid Vision document that your core purpose is very central in every single section. It also allows you as a company and allows your employees to say no to certain things as well, right? We only have 3 resources. We have people, we have time, and we have money. And our job is to get the highest return on those 3 resources. The second corner of the jigsaw puzzle is your core values. And I want you to think about and make sure that your core values are clear and articulated and really understood throughout your Vivid Vision document as well. They have to be felt in every section of your Vivid Vision. Now, people tend to mistake core values and they use a bunch of single words. Maybe they have too many words or maybe they're not that clear, but your core values should be short, easy to understand phrases that are very easy. They don't need any explanation. These are some of the best examples I've ever seen of core values. This company operated for 49 years and had the same 3 core values for the entire 49 years. Deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do. They needed no explanation. They didn't need any sub-bullet points to try to explain them. They were super clear. They weren't fancy. They did not try to organize them into some acronym because it was about the core values. It wasn't about an acronym. And they were willing to fire people who broke the core values. This is another good example of a company that had great core values. It's actually my sister's company. She's been operating it for 25 years. She has 120,000 people playing co-ed intramural sports in her leagues. But I got frustrated with her because I said, look, I've told you forever, it's only supposed to be 4 or 5 core values and you have 6. So she actually got rid of one. She got rid of the one that nobody could understand, which was be a Tigger. And be a Tigger was something from Winnie the Pooh, but if you've never seen Winnie the Pooh, it was confusing. So core value she ended up with are deliver what you promise, get shit done, treat every member like your best friend, live and breathe the sport and social club, and pride in all you do. Again, very clear, very easy to understand, and they'll fire people if they break the core values. These are clearly felt throughout her vivid vision document as well, and they should be clear in yours. And then the third and fourth corners of the jigsaw puzzle are the BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal, and the 1-year plan to make your vision come true. That's where kind of you're going to be starting with your vivid vision document, and then figuring out the plan to actually execute on it. And then you build in from there with the people systems, the strategic thinking systems, the meeting rhythms, financial systems, and culture. All stuff that I cover on, in my book Double Double, or in all of my books, or Second in Command podcast. But those are ways for you to actually think about building and framing your company. I also want you in this time right now to make sure that you're spending your time with the people that have the right positive energy, right? This is the time for leaders to be leading. More than any other time in our business history, our employees are looking to be led right now, and we need to spend time filling our buckets with positive energy. So I want you to make sure that you're spending time with positive individuals that are working on themselves, working on their company, working on making things better, that are always trying to stay in a good mood, protecting their confidence, and make sure that you get rid of any of the negative energy that you carry around you, because your role as CEO is to be the chief energizing officer. And you need to think about your organization and how you can bring more good, positive energy to it every single day. So I mentioned the COO Alliance. If any of you have companies that are doing at least 5 million in revenue to join, you should check that out. Again, no entrepreneurs are allowed to join, but you can get your second in command to join. It's all virtual. All of our events are pure online, 3 hours a month for your second in command. Definitely subscribe to the Second in Command podcast, because you'll get a lot of content around the rest of the jigsaw puzzle pieces that we just spoke about as well. And then check out my 5 books on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. I would, if you're going to grab Double Double to start with, only read the first chapters 1, 2, 4, 6, and 12. And then you can read the other chapters if you want to, but those are definitely the 5 core to start with. Another great one that will really help around positivity, Wayne, you'll probably love this one, is The Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, that I co-authored with Hal Elrod. Is a great book for entrepreneurs, and especially in this time right now where we have to take care of ourselves and protect our confidence and stay focused. So that's on me on the content side. We want to make sure we can open it up for questions from the group.
Yep. So for everyone, you should be able to find the question section. So go ahead. If you've got a question for Cameron, go ahead and type that in there, and we'll go through those and kind of fill those in. Cameron, if you would, while we're waiting on people to kind of add some questions here, I recently saw a video that you posted on your Facebook page as it relates to employee bonuses and things like that. But at the beginning of that video, you briefly kind of ran through some of the companies that you work for and some of like the awards they've won as it relates to culture and best places to work. And I'm gonna get you in just 1 second to kind of share, just run through a rough list of that again. Like, you've got the number 2 company here for best place to work, et cetera. I think so often that we sometimes hear about vivid vision, we hear about the different strategies, tactics, things that we should be doing, and we lose sight of what we're building. And oftentimes what we're building is that culture. And I think what you teach through Vivid Vision is so important to building a great culture, because again, like you've spelled out for us today, it creates that roadmap. It creates kind of where we're trying to get to. If you don't mind, just briefly share you kind of the highlight list of some of your current coaching clients or previous coaching clients, and kind of how they've ranked for best places to work.
Yeah, so some of my earliest training was with an organization called College Pro Painters. And College Pro Painters every year had to go out and recruit, hire, and train 800 university students to be franchisees. And they had to indoctrinate us into their world and train us very quickly. And then we had to run a business for 4 months. And we would do $64 million in house painting in 4 months. The 800 franchisees would go out and hire 8,000 painters. In 4 months, we'd produce $64 million in painting. And then September 1st, we'd all quit and go back to school. And the 60 people at the head office would do it again. So if you're trying to build a 9,000 person company every year from scratch, you had to be very good at becoming a little bit more than a business and a little bit less than a religion. We really got good at the culture side of the business, where people would be like, they just did everything we told them to do. And I've always thought about that inside of our businesses as well, is how do we create this as a place that's more than just where people are coming to work and not quite a cult. So I was reminded of a story of these three bricklayers. You know, you got the three guys out sitting on the sidewalk, and you know they're making bricks. And they asked the first guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm making bricks." They asked the second guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm making bricks to build a wall." And they asked the third guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're building a cathedral to worship God, and I get to make the bricks to build the left wall of the cathedral." You know, there's three people that are all doing the exact same task, but one had the bigger vision of what they were building, saw meaning and purpose in their work, and understood that their work was helping to do something like one sentence of that vivid vision coming true, like the left wall, and they're building the Sagrada Familia. So if you think about your business and the power of the vivid vision, is to get complete alignment with all of your employees around that core purpose and that core goal. So Wayne asked about the companies that I've helped build or coach, work with around culture. So clearly the one that we started with was College Pro Painters. College Pro was that very, very fast growing, amazing organization. I hired Kimball Musk, Elon's brother, worked for me back in 1993. I was a reference for Elon Musk in January of 1995 because of that. College Pro Painters is written up in his book. His cousin, Peter Reeve, who built Solar City, also worked for me in 93, I'm sorry. So College Pro was where I figured out the cult and culture side of business. Built two other companies that we got a lot of press for. And then I went and built the fourth company, 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I'm sure most of you have heard of or seen 1-800-GOT-JUNK by now. They're about a $450 million company today. I took them from 2 million to 106 million in 6 years, from 14 employees to 3,000 employees in 6 years. And we ranked as the #2 company in Canada to work for. And we twice ranked as the #1 company to work for in British Columbia. When I left there, I was asked to start coaching a number of companies. And my criteria was, again, young, fun, entrepreneurial, high viral, high growth, pre-public. The first company that I started coaching was called Nurse Next Door. I walked in, they had never sold a franchise yet, had no PR about their company. Branding was just getting started. 2 years later, they ranked as the #1 company to work for in British Columbia. Another coaching client of mine, CityMax, ranked that same year as the #2 company in Canada to work for. And a third company that I was coaching in Toronto had just done their second year in a row of being ranked as the top 50 companies in Canada to work for. They did 5 years in a row as the top 50 companies in Canada to work for, and then later sold. Their company's called Achievers. They sold for about 140 million, about 7 years after I was coaching them. I've then coached two companies that went on to rank #1 to work for in Australia. One that wasn't even on the list, and the 5 years after I was coaching them went from #40, #30, #20, and up to #1. And the second one, the year after I coached them, got ranked as #1 to work for in Australia. I also coached the #2 company to work for in the United States on Glassdoor. When I started coaching them, they weren't even really on the list for Glassdoor. I coached them for 2 years, and their second in command was one of the founding members of the CO Alliance. I also coached the #12 company in the US to work for on Glassdoor, the #1 company to work for in Cincinnati. The list goes on and on. So, and I don't go and actually work with a lot of companies that already are great. I actually work with them when you can see the glimmer. You can kind of see the idea and the opportunity, like, you know, they can make this thing work. That's usually when I get involved in helping them scale. But the stuff works.
Yeah, and that's the reason I kind of ask you that question, was just to validate the fact that what you're teaching today and what you're sharing today, not only does it help with the growth side, but it also helps with the culture side as well. And I think those two things go so hand in hand, you know. And when you have a great culture, the growth is that much easier.
Oh yeah, your growth gets very easy when you obsess about the cult side of the business, for sure. Should we take some of these questions?
Yeah. Yep.
So the first one we've got is from Jeremy Shepard. He said, "What are the 5 books that have been the most influential to you?" I'm going to give you a non-business book first that is fantastic, and it's Endurance by Albert Lansing. It's about Ernest Shackleton, the British explorer whose ship crashed in the Antarctic and was wrecked, and how after almost 2 years of living on ice floes and an island and having to travel 700 miles by rowboat. Every single person survived this journey. And it's an incredible, incredible story. It's now turned into a book about leadership lessons that have been extracted from it, but that was never the intention. It was just a chronicled journey of how these men survived this crazy, enduring event 100 years ago. It actually ended up being Steve Jobs' second or third favorite book of all time, after the autobiography of a yogi and Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged would be my second one for sure, by Ayn Rand. Just an amazing book, where probably the first time in history where the entrepreneur was the hero. You know, nowadays being an entrepreneur is cool, but when this was written back in the 50s, it certainly wasn't. And it talked a lot about how entrepreneurs have to constantly work around government intervention and government rules, like we're doing right now around COVID. It's like every time we turn around, the rules are changing on us, and we have to adapt and figure stuff out. And it's just a really amazing, amazing book. I love The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I think it talks about, you know, putting systems in place as if you're going to scale the company, and people don't fail, systems fail. Some really great, great lessons in that book. It's very digestible. For sure, Good to Great by Jim Collins, but I don't think Jim gave all the theory that you need to know to scale a company, but he didn't teach us how to do this stuff, which is unfortunate. But I tried in double to teach how to do all the stuff that Jim says we need to do, right? He talked about level 5 leaders. He didn't teach us how to do it. He talked about Hedgehog, not how to do it. So, but the stuff out of Good to Great is spectacular. And then I really liked recently Ben Horowitz's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. And I'll give you a sixth. But Ben's book is amazing. It's probably only 3 to 4 pages per content area. I think, Wayne, if you haven't read it, you'll love that book. And then the other one recently, I don't remember the author, was Insanely Simple. And it's all about Steve Jobs' drive for simplicity inside of Apple. And it's not a biography. It's really about 10 amazing systems that they used to drive simplicity inside of the Apple organization, whether it's down to their copy or the way they manage their meetings. But some really good lessons out of that book for sure, and for sure an enjoyable read. Next one we have is from Leanne Murphy. She said, if you were helping a solopreneur who has an in-demand service or product to make the mind shift from being self-employed to growing a business, what would your focus be with the entrepreneur? Leanne, great question. A couple things. First one is, when you're a solopreneur, only about 30% of your time are you being paid for your work. And about 30% of your time you're doing work that nobody's paying you for, like running your business and trying to find contractors to help you and trying to get the projects out the door, but it's unbillable time, but you're still working. And then the other 30% of your time, you're trying to find other business. You're trying to find more clients. So if you're only getting paid a third of the time, you need to charge 3 times what you think you should be charging to end up with the amount of money you're going to make at the end of the year. So let's say, as an example, you want to earn $200,000 this year as a solopreneur net profit, or 200,000 in revenue, even just for simple math. To do that means you need to charge $100 an hour. But that means $100 an hour, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year. But if you're only actually able to bill out at a third of that, you need to charge $300 an hour, because you're only billing out at about 14 hours a week. So that's a huge one for you, and just getting the numbers right. Second one is, it needs to get done, but not by you. And my sister just sent me a note this morning. I asked my sister about something. She's been running her company for 25 years. She has 78 employees, and she'd done something that looked really good. And I'm like, who did you get to do that for you? And she said, I stayed up overnight and did it. I'm like, fuck, are you kidding? Like, why? Like, we have to stop doing the work. Entrepreneurs we should be delegating everything except genius. We should be delegating everything below our hourly rate. So Leanne, if you're making, $300 an hour, if that's your charge rate, you should not be doing $15 an hour tasks. You should be trying to find some freelancers, people off Upwork or Odesk, people off Fiverr, find fractional assistants, find people in the Philippines, wherever, who can actually do work for you, because it needs to get done, but not by you. So that would be the big one that I would be focusing on, is to delegate everything except genius. And we've got a question from anonymous attendee. That's a cool name, anonymous attendee. So as CEO, speak of some ways that you've used or seen other companies energize and incentivize employees, bonus programs, evaluation. Oh, this is a great question. I wish this person had their name down, because like this is, you should get credit for this. I don't think that any employee can be incentivized at all. I think employees wake up. In fact, Fortune magazine asked me in 2003, how do you motivate your employees? I said, I don't motivate my employees. I hire motivated people. I inspire them with a vivid vision of where we're going, and I get out of their way. And then I help remove their obstacles, and I help coach them, and I help solve problems with them, and I help support them, and I cheer them on. But I don't motivate people, and I don't incentivize people, because the reality is people are only going to work as hard as they always work. You know, you might incentivize somebody for 10 minutes, but you can't incentivize them day in and day out for an entire year or 3 years. So Herb Kelleher, the founder of Southwest Airlines, someone asked him one time, how do you get all your employees to smile like that? He said, we hire smiley people, right? You can't take a grumpy person and make them happy. Happy people are always happy. And incentivized individuals or motivated individuals are always motivated. Now, you can destroy energy in a company by being negative. You can destroy energy in a company by being too critical. You can destroy energy in a company by not praising people enough. You know, it's like that old adage, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them in that ratio. Well, we should also praise people twice as often as we criticize them, right? I don't think as leaders we praise anywhere near enough, right? And what I mean by criticize, we often don't think is criticize, but hey, this is broken. Can you fix this? Can we do this? Here's another project. Here's another task. Why did this happen? What went wrong here? Those are all taken as questions or critiques from people. What we need to do is every time we tell someone, hey, this is broken, we need to also then praise them for 2 things that happened. Not right at the same time, but just remember that one thing you can do, by the way, at the end of every day is find 3 or 4 random people to praise about some specific things. Hey, Wayne, great job with that, graphic design element you put out the other day. I really appreciate that. Hey, Gary, thanks so much for, booking so-and-so. That was amazing. Like just tiny little things that raise the energy level of the group. So you can energize people, but you can't incentivize or motivate them that well. Oh, good. So the question came from Al Turner. Al, thank you. Anonymous attendee is now Al Turner. So that's kind of one of my beliefs there. I also don't believe that bonus systems actually work. Dan Pink in a famous TED talk on the science of motivation talked about how bonus programs can often demotivate people, because for 11, let's say that you have a year-end bonus. The reality is for most of the employees, none of their work actually is tied to what the bonus was tied to in the first place, right? So does their work really matter in their minds? And if there's this bonus that you pay at Christmas or at the end of the year, they might be happy for 2 weeks. And because they got a big chunk of change, they probably buy a few things that make them feel good for 2 weeks. And then they're like, oh, why did I just waste my money on that stuff? And the other 11 and a half months of the year, they feel like they're underpaid. So I would rather pay people at the proper level, inspire them with a vivid vision, remove obstacles, help them, support them, kind of flip the org chart upside down so that you're supporting them. But I don't really believe in putting a bonus program in place to motivate somebody. I think they're already either motivated or they're not.
Cameron, let me jump in real quick and just add this for reference here. Where would you say, so you said pay people at the proper level, where would you recommend people go to kind of figure out what level different roles should be paid?
Yeah, great question. So I always say if you were to put all of the same roles across kind of your industry in your city, it's very specific, by the way, to only benchmark in your city, because you don't want to benchmark Alexandria. It's Alexandria you're in, right?
Yep.
So you don't want to benchmark, a customer service job in Alexandria versus a customer service job in San Francisco or Boston, like completely different pay scales, right? Or even Alexandria versus New Orleans, different cost of living. So benchmark the roles that are available that are similar in your market, okay? That's the first. Second is I like to pay my people at about 85th percentile of the bell curve. So if we bell curve it out, I like being on the top edge, not the very, very highest, but near the top. I also like giving all my employees 5 weeks paid vacation, which includes their sick time. It's a use it or lose it policy that I want them to take the days off and then recharge. But I will actually go out and call companies in my area. I'll find somebody locally who can, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but you can go on Indeed. Remember that any of the job postings you see that if websites show what a certain title will be in your area, it's usually inflated to get people to quit their jobs and then use that website. So you kind of want to discount that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just take a look at the industry, take a look at surveys, talk to your chamber, your boards, talk to other people that you know that are in your space, benchmark with your peers like in organizations like this, and just kind of get a rough idea. That's usually a good starting point without having to spend money on surveys.
Yeah, that's great. Real quick before we jump over to the other question that came in, we got a couple of questions over here in chat. So one of those is, do you redo your 3-year vision every 3rd year? And then also, do you base your yearly goals on the 3-year vision? And that comes from Jared Huffman.
Yeah, great question. So yes, Jared, you do your 3-year vivid vision and you lock it in place, and that's the one you live off of for 3 years. So you don't change it every year. You just work really, really hard up until, let's say it's December 31st, 2020 was going to be the end of your vivid vision. Well, you're now launching your December 31st, 2023 vivid vision. I always, at my annual planning, which I usually do 2 to 3 months prior to the start of the year. So our annual plan is done. Our budgets are done. We're already executing on our 2021 plan. You have your, I like doing first off, the goals for the company in 3 years. And I have my employee net promoter score, my customer net promoter score, my profit by dollars, and my revenue 3 years out. The same 4 goals in 2 years out, and the same 4 goals 12 months out. I start with those. Then I try to do an org chart for what my company looks like in 3 years, and 2 years, and 1 year. And I start trying to reverse engineer based on those 2 things.
Repeat real quick, Cameron, those 4 goals, the 4 areas that you just mentioned.
The 4 goals, and again, they're always done in this order. The most important goal for a company is your employee net promoter score. It's how happy are your employees? Because the happier my employees are, the happier my customers are going to be. The happier my customers are going to be means I can charge more and I get more referrals. My cost per acquisition is lower, so my profit is higher. And that means I can really drive revenue because everything's just starting to work, right? I think companies that focus on revenue or saying customers are most important, your employees like, great, customers most important, which means I'm second. No, my employees are number 1. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
what
that's
I
great.
point.
Yeah, that's great. 2 other real quick questions out of chat. What's the most important thing in building out a business culture? And I'm going to go ahead and read the other one, which is any practical quick tips on embedding your Vivid Vision into your company or into your culture?
Sure. So what was the first one? What's the most important part around culture?
Building out a business culture.
Yeah, it's first, it's the alignment with vision. So as long as everyone knows what we're building, that's the key, right? Because then people see meaning in their work. They can say yes and no to certain things. They find purpose. So that's the core. The second part is the obsession around core values, right? They cannot just be up on the wall. It means you have to fire people who break the core values, right? And if you are firing people who break the core values and you hire people who live the core values, people are like, okay, I'm into this, right? And then it's that core purpose component. And then the last part is firing the jerks. It's firing the grumpy negative employees. It's firing the grumpy negative customers, because you don't make any money off them anyway. They suck up all your time. They deal with all your, and then firing your grumpy negative suppliers, right? So when you get rid of the negative energy and you got more of the positive energy, and all that positive energy is aligned with vision, the cult just starts to happen. It's not perks, right? Culture has nothing to do with the free massages and the free lunches and the wee room. Those are perks. Those are cool things you can do later. But if you've got grumpy negative employees, it doesn't matter if they get a free lunch. If you've got a bunch of people that don't know where they're going, it doesn't matter if you get free massages. If you got a bunch of people that, don't feel like they're supported, it doesn't matter if they get free bicycles on campus. You follow, right? It all has to be that alignment.
Yeah, that's great.
So practical quick tips to embed your Vivid Vision into the work culture. Every employee reads the Vivid Vision every quarter, right? You can get a draw shop video done of your Vivid Vision. So that way people can actually see your Vivid Vision and they understand it in kind of a different perspective. Sorry, my phone just rang. It's a bank for about a wire, which would never happen live on stage. So getting them to reread it, sharing it with potential employees. I send every time a resume comes in that potential employee gets an email right away saying, thanks very much for your resume. Please read our vivid vision. If this sounds like the kind of company you want to help fly to the moon, reply now with a 2 to 3 minute video of how you can help us make our vivid vision come true. I will not even read resumes until I get a video back. And if I like the video, then I'll look at their resume. Those are some of the key ways. Make sure that you give your vivid vision to your customers. Send it out to them twice a year. Send your vivid vision to your banker and your accountant and your lawyer and your suppliers. Everybody should be really clear on what you're building.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for those answers. And it looks like we have one other question over in the Q&A section there.
Sure. It says, when operating a new startup that's self-funded, where every dollar literally matters, how do you work through the mind shift of having more time than money to, for instance, pay a graphics artist instead of doing the first graphics yourself? So Nilaj, great question. I have never built a company that was not self-funded. Even 1-800-GOT-JUNK, when we went from 2 million to 106 million, we had no debt. We took in no outside money. We grew entirely off cash flow. So I'm very obsessive about the bootstrapping culture, the entrepreneurial culture, finding great contractors that are aligned with the vision so the price can be reasonable, getting employees to say, hell yeah. But it's about saying no more often than we're saying yes. It's about valuing your time and working on the most critical, few things. So I'll kind of give everybody the secret formula. I wasn't going to cover this, but I will. If you all write down this secret formula to what success is, and the formula, and just grab a pen and a paper and write this down. It's F times E equals success. So the first F is focus. And I want you to give yourself a percentage rating. Let's say that you gave yourself a rating for the year so far, or for the month so far, or for the week so far. How focused were you in your company? Give yourself a percentage of 1 through 100% focused. Are you focused on the right demographic, the right customer, the right segment? Are you focused on your plan, or did you get distracted by the big shiny object? Do you have a marketing budget and a calendar that you're focused on? Or are you getting distracted by whatever Gary Vee's throwing out as the new coolest thing to be targeting? Like, are you really truly focused, right? Do you keep your headphones on, and are you focused? Or are you distracted by everything that's happening in the day-to-day? Are you focused on your plan and your vision? Or are you distracted by COVID and the news and whatever's going on in the world? So you give yourself a percentage score. Let's say you're 50% focused. The second F is for faith. How much faith do you have in yourself, your market, your team? Are you protecting your faith? Are you protecting your confidence? Are you in a group that's giving you energy and ideas? Are you getting coaching that's giving you energy and ideas? Are you keeping your faith strong in yourself and your team and your plan? And give yourself a percentage score there of somewhere between 1 and 100%. So maybe you're again 50% on faith. And then give yourself, the third one is effort. And this is how much effort are you putting in? So are you really working hard, or are you hardly working, right? When you're actually driving, like, are you really pushing it, or are you kind of fluffing your way through work? And give yourself a percentage score of between 1 and 100% on effort. So let's say you ended up at 50% focus times 50% faith times 50% effort. That only gives you a 12.5% chance of success. If you take 0.5 times 0.5, it's 12.5. So you're going to, horrible odds. You're just not going to be successful. Even if you get to 80% focused times 80% faith times 80% effort, that only gives you a 51.2% chance of success. The real driving force behind business success is getting yourself towards or past 90% focus, and all of your employees the same. Or College Pro Painters, or any of the brands that I've coached globally, it's an obsession around those three things to get to something like 98% focus times 98% faith times 98% effort, which gives you a 94% chance of success. So I think that's really what the entrepreneurial kind of success model is around, is self-checking yourself against that, but making sure everyone's completely aligned with that vivid vision document.
Yeah, that's great, Cameron. That's a very simple formula, and a very, if we're honest with ourselves, a very tough formula to look at. As we kind of wrap up, I've got just two last little questions for you. So As you know from the last time you were here, is Gary's program, the BAS program, they work with entrepreneurs from all across central Louisiana. We're in the rural part of the state, I guess you could say. What role or how important do you feel coaching is for entrepreneurs and business owners?
Critical. It's critical. Here's the thing. Would you rather learn from your own mistakes and keep bumping into the wall like the fly trying to get out the window, right? I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work harder. Meanwhile, you've got a coach or a mastermind group or community like this that says, hey, there's a door right here. If you turn and go out the door, you're home free. And I think it's so horrible watching these business owners that are going to try harder, and they end up like a fly dead on the windowsill. So I think coaching is powerful. Investing in mastermind groups is powerful. It's why I started the COO Alliance. Was I wanted to have a place to grow your second in command as well, right? There's no point in you, the CEO, knowing how to do everything when it's the COO, if you have one that's actually doing it for you, right? But it's important to grow your people. I have a course that I'm launching in the first quarter on invest in your leaders for this purpose as well, is to invest in the skills, the leadership skills that all of our leaders need to scale our companies for us. So yeah, I think it's really powerful. I think Gary's program is invaluable.
Yeah. And just for those who don't know, I know, because I kind of follow you on social media, et cetera, is you practice what you preach. I know you're involved in several masterminds and coaching programs yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been in, so I was in the Entrepreneurs Organization for 5 years, which is where I met Brian from 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I've spoken to EO chapters in 26 countries. I've been involved in YPO, which is the Young Presidents Organization. I've spoken at 27 of the all-city events for Vistage throughout the US. I'm a member of the Genius Network for 6 years, a member of Strategic Coach for 7 years. I've gone to 3 baby bathwater events, 2 war room events, 5 mastermind talks events, and I'm probably missing a couple of others. Like I'm deeply, and I've gone to the main TED conference for 9 years. Like I'm very, very embedded into, but I always find that I get about a 10x return easily from any time I invest in it. If I invest $50,000 in coaching, I generate at least $500,000 in revenue or savings. If I join an organization and I spend 10 grand, I'm easily getting a 10x return on that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for sharing kind of your personal experience with that. One last question or one last thing to kind of bring up, and then we're going to bring Gary back on just to wrap us up and tell people how they can, learn more about his program and how they can apply for one of the slots he has available. Next Thursday, the 17th at 10 a.m., we are actually having a friend of yours, Jack Daly, who will be doing a Zoom meeting just like this and presenting on sales and answering questions. What would you say to everyone watching this about attending that? Should they attend? Why should they attend, et cetera?
You're an idiot if you do not attend Jack Daly's event. Jack is, oh my gosh. I've known Jack for 23 years. I'm so glad. All over the world. God, the guy will inspire you to no end. He's run a marathon in every state. He's run a marathon on every continent. I think he's even run a marathon in the Arctic and Antarctic. I think he did marathons in both. Yeah, the guy's a machine. He really, really, truly one of the best in the world at sales and sales cultures. And
excellent.
A close friend.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So everyone who is attending this today, if you check your email, you will have an email and there will be a link to Jack's event. And just because you attended today, there will also be a coupon code. That coupon code is just Cameron's first name, and that will actually get you a free ticket to Jack events next week. Cameron, again, thank you so much for taking the time today to share with us. I'm going to turn it back over to Gary real quick just to tell everyone what they need to do if they're interested in one of the few spots Gary has in his program for this coming year.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Bye, guys. Thanks, Gary.
Cameron. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. We promised you we'd be through in an hour, and we're over that. But, Wayne, we have 13 more spots available for 2021. And Anybody out there that's interested, it's not already involved in this program, email, go to our CLETA website. There are spots on there to join our program. Call my cell number, 880-6332. We'd be glad to talk to you about it. Thank you, Wayne, for hosting this.
You bet, Gary. Thank you so much. And thanks for everybody for attending. And be sure to check your email because there's a link to the event for next week, as well as your coupon code. And that coupon code expires, I believe, today at 5. Is that right? It expires today at 5 p.m. So if you want your ticket for free, go click on that link and enter the coupon code Cameron. Hope everyone has a great day. Thank you all so much.